Hello everyone, my name is Gabby and I will be starting my second and final year of the graduate portion of Arcadia's Master of Science in Forensic Science 4+2 program this fall. Today I would like to welcome you to Arcadia and share some helpful tips for navigating Zoom classrooms. For returning students, welcome back. You have already had some experience with Zoom classrooms at the end of the spring 2020 semester, so you should be ready to get started with this new semester in the fall. For incoming students, welcome to Arcadia. This is all probably very new to you, but we are here to help you with the transition from a traditional classroom to an all modes ready learning experience. During syllabus week or at your first class meeting, your professor will set their own in-person and Zoom classroom rules. For classes on Zoom, they will explain their expectations regarding active participation, as well as whether enabled video and audio are required. In most cases, you will be required to have your camera on during the beginning of class, maybe at the end of class and during any classroom discussions. But you're often free to disable the video during the lecture itself, as the professor who is sharing their slides and sharing their screen won't be able to see you anyway. However, I have found that it is both good etiquette and also better for your learning experience to keep your camera on if possible, as that makes it less tempting to get distracted and you're more focused and more engaged on the lecture material. If you do need to step away from your computer for any reason, you can always temporarily disable your video and come back to it later. In terms of audio, it is best to have your audio off if you are not speaking. But with that in mind, you have to remember to unmute yourself whenever you do have anything to say. With that, I have found that it is easiest to use the spacebar technique, where if you press and hold the spacebar, it temporarily unmutes yourself for the amount of time you hold the spacebar. And that way you can say whatever you need to say, let go, and then you're muted again. However, I've learned from experience that if you were previously typing in the chat box and forgot to click out of it first, when you hold down that spacebar, all you're doing is adding a bunch of spaces into the dialog box, and you are not unmuting yourself. So just some things to consider. With that being said, one of my favorite features of Zoom is the ability to use the chat box and send a message to everyone in the meeting or one individual through a private message, and that includes the professor. This can be extremely helpful if you have a clarification question or some questions on the content of the lecture material, and you do not want to interrupt the speaker. You feel uncomfortable interjecting in between slides, which, if you're like me, that is a common occurrence. That way, if you use the chat box, you get your question out there before you forget it, and they will see it eventually. Maybe not immediately. They might need someone else in the meeting to point out, hey, there's a question in the chat, just so you're aware, but they will get to it at a more convenient time. And that is always very helpful. You can do the same thing with your classmates. So I know there have been a few instances where maybe the lecturer was going a bit too fast and I missed a detail when I was writing down my notes. So I sent a private message to one of my classmates saying, hey, did you catch that? And then they'll tell me whatever I missed, and that works. Just like you would in a normal classroom if you whispered to the person sitting next to you, like, hey, did you catch that? It's just good to not have full-on private conversations, otherwise you aren't paying attention to the lecture material and that only hurts yourself. If you would like to stay after class and get extra help or just have a conversation with your professor, you can always send a request via private message if you don't want everyone knowing, or you can just chime in at the end of class saying, hey, can you stay after? They may not always be available right after class, and they might direct you to their office hours, either in person or through Zoom that they have set aside already. They may also ask you to email them and schedule a one-on-one meeting. Don't worry, they will address any and all of your concerns, just maybe not right after class. You have to be flexible as we all try to navigate this new normal. It's different for all of us. We will talk about the best ways to communicate with faculty and classmates in another video. But for now, thank you for listening.